Alrighty, welcome to Voices from the LAOboratory Podcast. My name is Sunisa and Manivone, and I'm here with
Manivone Nonthaveth.
And if you listened to our first episode, which we released just a couple weeks ago, you heard me talking about what LAOboratory is, the origin story, and how Manivone was a big part of that. So I thought it was a great opportunity to have her on our second episode, just to have a conversation about what we've been up to individually, together, our lives here in New York, and how LAOboratory has been a big part of that. So, Manivone, welcome.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Manivone, and I am a writer, filmmaker, artist.
Have you ever been on a podcast?
No. No, I prefer being behind the camera, so this is very new to me, but I do need to practice speaking publicly, because that's definitely one of my weaknesses. So this is nice. This is like, I don't actually have an audience that I'm speaking to directly, and we could do some posts if we need to.
So tell us who you are. What do you spend your time doing?
Well, I have been a visual artist for over 20 years, and it was really interesting because as a kid, I always was creating something. So when people ask me, what medium do you work in, I just say everything, because I really do. It's really about the concept and what that concept demands. And as of 5 years ago, I started to explore filmmaking and wrote my first script for a short featuring the beloved Sunisa as the lead. And that really skyrocketed my interest and helped me really focus my creativity into one avenue, because I was very much all over the place. So that's where I am right now. I'm primarily writing, but I did finish my second short film this past fall, which also screened at a film festival.
So let's back up a little.
Mm-hmm.
You have been an artist, like, professionally for most of your life.
Yeah. I mean, when I say being an artist, you definitely have to, like, there are the few that have been able to be like that prodigy and they live off of their art. I haven't been able to be self-sufficient just off of my art. So I've always had to supplement, my income with other things, such as, waitressing, bartending. But I also freelance. I do freelance work as a photographer and an artist. So yeah, I could say professionally, but I definitely always had to lean on other stable income to live.
So I don't know too many Lao people who are self-identified artists. So what was it like growing up for you? Were you always artistic? Did your parents support that? What was that household like? Because that was not my household.
Yeah. I think my situation was really unique, especially because I hear so many stories from not only the Lao diaspora, but from just Asian diaspora in general. A lot of them do speak out about the expectations of education and a profession that is very secure in the medical industry, or becoming a lawyer, or those huge accolades are very important in our community. But in my home, I do have to say my parents were incredibly supportive, and they've never given any hint that they doubted my chosen path, and they have always supported me. Actually, I think it's a combination. My father is an artist himself. I remember early on him creating this beautiful painting of these orange koi fish, and it just blew me away that he could create something I think I was it's an early memory. I had to be 3 or 4. I remember that. And then my sister also had an artistic leg up, because in high school, I think, maybe even middle school, her teachers recognized her ability. So me seeing her kind of move into that avenue, and my brother was very artistic, so I didn't think it was strange that I was interested in this field. And my mom was always very, very loving, and I think she just had faith in us to teach her, because her being an immigrant, she maybe had some ideals, but she knew nothing of how to raise a kid in America. So she kind of leaned in on what we could teach her,
Why filmmaking for the last few years? Like I know, like you said earlier, and also in our other conversations, you were like doing everything.
Yeah.
But now, like, you've kind of grounded yourself as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter. So what is it about that medium that speaks to you?
I think a lot of artists can relate to this, where they loved making the work. The process was what kept them continuing on in doing the work, but showcasing work was very difficult. Being vulnerable to put it in exhibitions for people to view and judge and have their own opinions and bring their own baggage to it. That's very intimidating for a lot of artists. And it's all very valid feelings. But I think with filmmaking, the fact that it's a very collaborative field, it took a lot of the pressure off of me. And it wasn't just about me. It was about all these beautiful artists coming together and having a specialty that they brought to the table, and then creating something together. And that's what has really brought me to realize maybe this is what I'm really good at, because I love, I am an introvert in a way where it's easy for me to just stay in the corner of my living room on my laptop and write to myself and not talk to anyone for a couple weeks. That's easy. Like, really, it's not strange for me not to leave my house. But when it comes to collaborative work, it's so exciting to be able to see other people that are struggling and vulnerable in the same ways, and it brings me a little bit of comfort, I guess. Yeah. So and I was very much scatterbrained with my work, and I finally feel like this is actually a real path that I could focus on and build on, rather than this year I'm going to do sculpture. This year I think I'm just going to focus on collage this year, and that's all fine. But I think those are all building blocks to bring me to the place where I am now, and it's not like I can't go back and do those personal works again and maybe even showcase them. But no, this is definitely, there's like some clarity,
Yeah, an expansion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what kind of stories do you like to tell?
I think the stories that I typically lean into are combination of like underdog stories, the people that don't see their internal power right away, because I do like to speak about like my personal experiences as a first generation American, but I also don't want that to limit me to that's the only type of stories that I could tell, because I think there's a way to tell stories outside of just like the identity of your nationality, ethnicity, but more of like the human side of people. So yeah, right now I think I'm trying to still figure out if there's like a pitch where I know exactly what kind of stories, but I don't think I've figured that out quite yet.
Yeah. There's a lot of intersections to look at, right? And it's like, especially when you live in New York City, it's like intersection capital.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
And you meet like so many different people, right? And you hear so many different stories. What else do you do in your time? How else do you spend your time here?
Well, I do have two beautiful young daughters that occupy a lot of my time, and counterpart, my partner, is an artist as well. He's a visual artist, painter, oil painter. Helping him out with his stuff occupies my time. And then now that my youngest daughter is 4, and then I have another daughter that's 9, I'm feeling a lot more freedom. And so he's always been pushing me to like go out and have a social life and live. So I've been doing that a lot lately. So we've been hanging out a lot. And yeah, it's been great. We also realized last weekend, we like pushed it a little bit. We're like, okay, maybe this is not
the
we just
spot we
just kept going and going and going. And we're like, wait, we're not 22 anymore. We can't be going
to the music.
Yeah, it was the music. That's true. We could have hung in there if it wasn't for the music. That's true. But yeah, I am trying to open up a little bit. But also, sorry, going back to like what I reference in my writing, what I do have to say about discovering this avenue at such a later age is that, like let's say I got my big break in filmmaking and I had like a movie or something at 27 or something. I don't know if that would have benefited me because like the fact that I've lived a life, I have something to really, something to draw from.
Yeah.
Life experiences and heartbreak and tears. And I don't know if like a younger person at 22 would be able to tell stories the same way, someone that's lived their life. So
yeah, they would be very different stories.
Yeah.
Like different sense of authenticity.
Right. Not saying it's not valid, but for myself, and there's people that have lived lifetimes by the age of 15, so that's not speaking on anything. But like for me, I was naive for a good chunk of my time, and I feel like I had an awakening moving to New York.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you left Denver a while ago.
Yeah, so I've been in New York. I've only lived in Brooklyn. So I've been in Brooklyn for 15 years. I just had an anniversary. I did not get to live much of a life in Denver. And so that's why when I say it was a real awakening living in New York, like I was in a 10-year relationship with my high school sweetheart. And so when I moved here, it was like my first time like actually feeling independence and some individuality. This is a thread that I feel like is in a lot of my storytelling is it's like almost my love story to New York. There's that thread of New York in a lot of my work. And it's because this place is really special, right?
Yeah, no, I feel that. Like, I feel similar. Like, I'm a different person.
Yeah.
In New York.
Yeah.
I've been back here for like 10 years than the person that I was before. I think for way better. For the better.
For the better, yeah.
Transformation, right? Like, this is, if you love it here, this is the kind of place that transforms you to be better, to be your best, I really think.
Yeah. And I think it has to do with just being around such a diverse, crowd of people wherever you go. You're faced with just like some adversity. And then also just the beautiful, like, I feel like the collaboration aspect is really special here, But,
I learned how to collaborate here, and which you don't expect, right? Because people think New York is competitive and cutthroat, but that's like the people that are not from here.
Yeah.
Like the people who are from New York are very loving, and they're your neighborhood people, and like they take care of you and take care of one another. So I've learned how to like collaborate here through my work as a teacher, but also just, like meeting people who want to do things, right? Like when we met, it was over a project. And it was like, oh, we all kind of felt the same. We're like, we didn't know there were other Lao people.
Yeah.
And Lao people who want to like do things because, I don't know, me, like growing up, my parents were like, oh, stay away from Lao people. X, Y, and Z is going to happen to you. And so I didn't know how to like, even like, be around other Lao people in a social, professional way.
So wait, I mean, that's kind of interesting because when when you say that, you grew up within like somewhat a Lao community.
I grew up in upstate New York in Binghamton, which has a Lao community.
Yeah.
I lived in the city of Binghamton, so like when I went to school, there were like a few other people, not many boys, because like a lot of boys had dropped out. And so my parents were like, stay away from Lao people.
Really?
Yeah, they had internalized a lot of that, like discrimination and, you know, like we're a refugee population, like we had a hard time assimilating and probably still do. And so, you know, my parents, you know, like I know like one of our friends, Vicky, right? She's always talking about like her sister and like how her parents were really strict with her because of what had happened to her sisters. So like that's very real, you know. So my parents were always like, hang out with the white kids.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I think for some reason I don't know. I definitely grew up with a huge Lao community in Denver. But I think I naturally compartmentalized how I interacted with them. You know, obviously at community functions, we were together and I'd have a small group of friends, especially if my cousins were really close with a group, then I'd kind of by default be in that group. But I never really liked like the posse clique mentality. So I personally was always like withdrew myself from that. And so like I to myself said I will never date a Lao guy. But mainly because it was a little bit traumatic when, you know, you're growing up and everyone's your uncle, everyone's your auntie, and everyone's your cousin. So it just felt weird to me to date a Lao guy. So I never even dated a Lao guy. My relationship with the Lao community is interesting because it wasn't really imposed by my parents. It was like by my own natural, maybe my personality or my own doing. But that's funny that your parents really...
Yeah, like when I went to elementary school, like my first elementary school was like white. I was one of like 3 or 4 Asian kids. And then in the 4th grade, we moved to the city of Binghamton. So there were more Lao people there. And I remember like 2 Lao girls in my 4th grade. And I was just like ecstatic, you know, because I had come, I think, from like such a white place where you're just like outsider. And you're just like, wait, I just want to not be the outsider and just like breathe and be like, oh shit, like you're also Lao. Like that was like, you know, like the first 8 years of my life. So yeah, I think, you know, our perspective on like Lao community is different. And then like, I think also like once you start like being like a teenager, then your parents are like, they're watching, you know, and they know they could at least keep the
and drinking
boys away from
and drinking is a huge part of adolescence and like our culture as adults too. So like I guess that's a little, they're being cautious too, because I remember the parties. There's lots of parties growing up.
Lots of gambling.
But it's different here as an adult finding other Lao people. It's you know.
No, you have to try.
Yeah.
Like how did you find the Lao NYC Lao Now project?
It was through my best friend, my high school best friend, Anthony Harper, who's not Lao, he's black. And he was living in Harlem and he made really good friends with I'm thinking of her daughter's name, and now like her name is Mary. Yeah. So they became really good friends, and so they connected me to her. And then I think maybe Brita reached out to her regarding the foundation, the organization, Legacies. And so she forwarded the information to me, and I was like, oh yeah, like there's other Lao people here? Yeah. So it was funny because it's like for a good cause, but my intentions were like, I want to meet other Lao people in New York.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell we were doing.
I was like, I'll show up.
There wasn't really like anything, like we started from scratch. They were like, we want to do some kind of like fundraiser. And we're like, okay, let's gather up all the Lao people we knew. Right? Everybody like brought one.
Yeah. You're good at explaining what Legacies of War is.
Yeah, so Legacies of War is an organization that advocates for, educates, and fundraises for, the removal of the unexploded ordnance that's left in Laos. So Laos is the most heavily bombed country per capita in the history of the U.S. Over 200 million tons, I think.
I think it's 2 million tons.
200 million
cluster bombs.
Yeah.
Even after
those haven't exploded.
Yeah.
So it fucked up our country. That's why we had to get out. We had to leave, right?
Yeah, even after 50 years after the war is done, the people there are still affected and in danger of those bombs. Yeah. And it's mainly children and farmers that are hugely affected by these. And
a lot of people are not even aware of the issue in the country.
I mean, they don't even know that Laos is a country.
Right. So in Laos, they don't know. It's not widely talked about. And then here in America, it's not either. It's part of the secret war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was such a beautiful and organic way of learning of each other and really discovering how talented our diaspora is. There's really some talented people that we've discovered through this program or through the organization. So I'm thankful for sure.
Yeah. And from that, we felt like we had a little bit of momentum, right? We would do Friendsgiving.
Yeah.
We did some get-togethers, but I missed it, which is why when we connected and that kind of feeling came back, I was like, okay, I have to jump on this. And I don't know, when you're an adult, when you're a woman and you have your own things going on, I don't know about you, I feel weird sometimes reaching out.
It's so hard.
Hey.
Yeah, and
let's just hang out.
And it's
really have some of your time.
it's really embarrassing too because we lived a few blocks from each other.
Yeah, we used to live on the same street.
Yeah,
I used to walk by all the time. We would see each other more happenstance than we would actually get together.
Yeah. I mean, it's not anything against each other. We just was okay, we're living our lives. But what's different now is we're really valuing those friendships and carving out the time. We have to remember that a lot is that things don't happen unless you make it happen,
Yeah, I teach high school, right? And I tell my kids in high school, college, your friends are not going to be like this. Here you're just friends with whoever is around you because you see them every day. But after you leave here, you're not going to talk to any of these people again.
It's true. I do. I don't look forward to any high school reunions.
Have you ever been to any?
No. Have you?
No.
And I don't plan on going to any.
Last year was my 20th.
Okay. I don't even know. I'm sure mine was years ago. Yeah.
So let's talk about LAOboratory, which is, for people who don't know, it's a women's collective that centers Lao women and our experiences. And we started off with communing around peer coaching, and we've also planned retreats. And right now we are in our second iteration of LAOboratory. So Mani, why don't you tell us what has LAOboratory been like for you? What are just some of the things that you want to share with what we've been doing?
Yeah. Well, I've never experienced anything like this. Like I said, it's pretty easy for me to just be a recluse. So when Nisa approached me with joining this, or creating this group, I was like, okay, yeah, let's meet up. Let's go hang. It gives us a reason to set a time to meet up. And then she's like, we're going to do a vision board. I was like, oh my gosh, so cheesy. Who does vision boards?
My big bag and teacher
in my head, I'm like, what in the word vision boards? Mind you, I've never done one. So that's why my judgmental, thing ticked. And then we do it. And it was just by the end of the session, it was just so exhilarating to be able to like speak upon things that maybe have been in the back of your subconscious that you never realized that you really wanted for yourself, or even believed that you could, put it out there and say, this is something that I can work towards. It's not just a dream. So, on my vision board, it was very much career oriented because my family life is pretty stable. So it wasn't anything that I had to work on that end. And I feel like immediately after that session, I got like really good news about being, shortlisted on this huge fellowship program. And
which I
got. And then with every session, it was like weird. It was like all the stars were aligning, and it was like an immediate calling to, the universe, and things would just happen. As I'm asking for it, it says the universe was saying yes. And, this is the second iteration, as Nisa said, but, the first one really was so impactful. And it wasn't just because things were happening for me externally with my career, but really it was making me feel like an internal power, over myself. So, and with my sisters, I loved hearing their stories and seeing how they're transforming themselves and addressing, their whatever's going on with them. So, I don't know why this isn't something that a lot of people are doing, within their own communities, niche communities. But it's been great.
And I heard you say, like, the stories, right? So, like, we share a lot of stories. What else, what else are we doing in the sessions? Like, could you describe?
Yeah, I think
what's a typical session like?
Their peer coaching is interesting because it's very structured, which I'm not used to, like with, getting with, when you're meeting up with people, it's very casual, but I like the fact that there is a structure, and we are, Nisa's guiding us through where we're speaking upon whatever we want to speak on, and then, there's, questions that can be asked to clarify, and then we go back and offer some, I guess you could say, advice.
Sometimes wonderings,
right? Yeah. And then by the end of it, you kind of conclude your session with what you got from that. And yeah, I could speak to a lot of the members are kind of, they feel the same way of leaving each session like with a little bit more clarity. Yeah, and being able to set intentions as some of the vocabulary in the sessions. Yeah, it's been great.
I would say, intention is a good word. Like, I feel like that's mainly it. And you know that I just learned the Lao word for intention.
Okay,
you probably know it.
Yeah,
it's tang chai.
Tang chai. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Which, like, I always used to think of it more as like focus.
Yeah.
But then as I've like been doing like my language like translation work and going back and forth, it's actually
very much
deeper.
The translation of that.
It's intention.
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah.
So tang chai.
Exactly. And it's also, it's very therapeutic because we are talking about trauma. And, and we do have very similar upbringing, so we can relate, it's...
I actually feel like like sometimes it's hard to get like a whole story out of your parents or your families. It's like, I feel like I'm learning more about my family and my experience from hearing other people's because like, your parents have one experience, right? And they can share that and parts of it, but then like when I hear about yours and like your dad being an artist, or like everybody else is it's healing, right? But it's also like, it's like we are creating that body of knowledge about us, just from talking about our moms, right?
Yeah.
We talk about our moms a lot.
And my dad is getting old too, so he's gonna be, oh my gosh, right around the corner on Monday, he's gonna be 80. So it's it's a huge birthday. And so that really got me thinking, like, I told my mom, I was like, I want to maybe interview you guys on camera. And I can't keep putting it off because, you know, time is slipping away a little bit. You know?
And we said that maybe, like, it could be cool if we interviewed each other's families too. I think that would be, cause especially like bringing like the different languages together.
Yeah, I think my husband Taha mentioned it because I was telling him, I don't know, because when I talk to them, they only give me tidbits of like information and they censor themselves with me. So I was like, he was like, well, maybe you can get like your cousin to interview your parents. And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant, you know?
Yeah.
So we can definitely work together in that, because I think that's probably the same for everyone, that our parents try to shield us from, you know, their certain life experiences that they don't necessarily feel like,
or they feel like maybe they've already said that story like so many times to you that it's not important anymore. But the audience piece, right? Might affect the stories that come out. Yeah,
absolutely. So I mean, I think being together, I think working together like this is generating so much healing, and then also future prospects of what it can be. So it's really important work, and I applaud you for all the work that you put into it, because I know we show up every month, but I know that it takes a lot of time and effort.
It's my passion project. I put off other things and I do this because I love it. And I'm so glad that that you are similarly enthusiastic, and all of our other sisters too. I thank them so much for like spending time with us on a Sunday on Zoom. So thank you again for coming through and talking about yourself. This has been really fun. And thank you all for watching. If you haven't, please like, subscribe, and comment, and share, and come back next time. Bye.